Hello and welcome to the Loop Scoop. My name is Lana Fine. I'm the host of the show. Today we're in the beautiful Kelowna, BC, and I have the pleasure of interviewing one of the most rad women I know, Karen Stewart. Karen has a Master's of Applied Behavioral Analysis in Psychology and a Master's in Clinical Psychology. Karen also has her own psychotherapy practice, or previously had your own psychotherapy practice. So Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the beginning for our audience that doesn't know anything about you. What's your story? Where did you grow up? How did you get here?
I grew up in Vancouver, and I attended UBC, and was quite content, actually, living on the coast. And did my degrees there, and then in Chicago, and in the States, in Gonzaga for the first degree. But I moved to Kelowna in 1975, and I've never looked back.
Okay, you've been here a while then. So you would have some good perspective on small communities in Canada then, since you've been here.
Yes.
So Karen, you're also an artist. So I've seen myself the beautiful portraits and landscapes, you name it, you can paint it. What's your trick?
I've always had a passion for painting people. I can do landscapes, but I don't have the same feeling. I just feel connected to people. And when I was in Vancouver, I also attended the Vancouver School of Art and had exhibitions there. I seem to gravitate to making images of the downtown core, particularly the East Side, Pigeon Square, and not just documenting the buildings, because at that time I was in architecture, but I was fascinated by the people, and I felt deeply connected to that world, and felt that they need to be acknowledged.
So it's very personal for you.
Yes.
Having viewed your images, that makes a lot of sense. It's very, you see, what I feel from your paintings is that there's this inside scope of it, and shows a different kind of reality than some that you often see captured in artwork. It's very special. So, and I think you're extra fantastic and skilled because you're visually impaired, correct?
I'm visually impaired, but it's a rather unique kind of impairment. I call it 20/20 blind. I have relatively good vision, but I have a dystonia, which means that the muscles around my eyes spasm, which causes me to be unable to focus or see. So hence I have a white cane, and I am very lucky to be trained through CNIB. They've done a great job of helping me.
And for those who don't know, what's CNIB?
Canadian National Institute for the Blind.
Okay.
Yeah, I truly recommend that to anybody who has vision impairment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I know that you've told me some cool stories, and one of which was about your times with Greenpeace.
Oh, yes.
I would love it if you would share that with me.
Oh, yes. Well, we used to go to, my husband and I at the time would go to all the Greenpeace meetings. I mean, this is when the first, Rainbow Warrior was going out. They were a crazy bunch. And, we'd have the meetings and people would do these things. And, it was a bit hair-raising, but at the same time, they were making history. They were making sense. And I was really proud to be part of that group.
What was your most memorable moment, or what's your biggest memory from that time with Greenpeace that you would be willing to share with us? I know there's some things you wouldn't want people to know.
Well, yes. They were not saints. That is true. I think just the friendships that took place, and they were a bit fringe. They were a lot fringe. And there was, drugs and rock and roll. That was part of the show. But they were very decent people. They truly were very decent, and it was for a good cause, and I loved them.
I think that's the first time I was like, Karen is a radical lover. That to me, that's a good word. It's a good descriptor. And the word fringe, that's funny. That does describe you a little bit too. I don't know.
Oh yes.
Don't take that the wrong way.
No. I definitely. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1964. I am the penultimate hippie. A lot of people espouse to be hippies and into that, but it was a period where people were really making statements, particularly about the Vietnam War. And I kept a safe house for deserters and for people who were exiting the war. Yeah. And then we would relocate them up into the Slocan Valley.
I bet that would have been really intense at the time.
Well,
always
it was.
Looking over your shoulder, because there was some wild things going on in the world at that time.
Oh, there was. There was a young man that stayed in my place, and he was tormented. And he had been a wonderful officer, but his friend went through the military training at West Point, and they were together, and his friend was killed in front of him. And then when they were over in Vietnam, my friend, I won't say who, he saw his commanding officer murdering the women and children, and he turned his gun on them. And so he ended up in a camp in south of San Francisco, and he escaped and came all the way to Canada and was with me. And his father was the bodyguard for Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president. So they actually came to my place and picked him up and took him back to the States. He escaped again, came back to my place, and we shipped him off to the north. And I said, don't give me your address. I can't tell anybody where you are if you don't tell me. So goodbye and good luck. So that was
such an incredible story.
Yeah.
Coming from an incredible person. You just have tales and tales of things that are just, to me, remarkable.
Well, it was in a remarkable time, and lots of people did a lot of remarkable things. It was a time of deciding what kind of stance you wanted to take in the world.
Yeah. You were part of those movements.
Yeah.
So tell me what it was like for you working in with the school district here in Kelowna.
Well, I got involved in the school district when children with any form of handicap or disability, they were kept in the basements of the school, if there was a basement, and they had people, very nice people, work with the children, but there was absolutely no training, and the children were not integrated. And this was physical disabilities, mental disabilities, all manner of disabilities. And there was a little boy in Kelowna whose parents, bless their heart, took the school districts of BC to court. And they won the case, and his name was, I believe, Kevin Beale. I may have the name, I'm pretty sure that's the name. At any rate, this little boy, they won the case, which meant all these children had to be integrated into classrooms. So I was hired by the district to design a program for integration and to train people at the college to supervise and support the integration of all these children, with the training to be knowledgeable about their level of disability and how to support them. So that's when all the children became integrated.
Wow, that's remarkable.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, Karen, we know each other through my mom. So my mother lives around the corner here, Marilyn, sweet Marilyn. And she originally just told me about your art and some of your history, but having you tell it to me yourself was so much more personal and interesting. But this journey with us started on your idea to go down to Railtown, which is the encampment area in Kelowna here.
Yes.
And would you share with our audience what your idea was, what you wanted to capture?
I think what appalls me about the public is that people will ride their bicycles along the trail and they'll take snapshots of the people as if they're specimens in the zoo. Now we're getting rid of zoos, because we know that even all the animals hate to be stared at and in such a disrespectful way. These are human beings that are somebody's children, and they were little boys and girls growing up, and people assume, they assume the background of the children and these adults that are there, and they do that with no sense of humanity when they're looking at them. And so when you and I went down to interview people, and you did an incredible job of interviewing, I was documenting visually what I was seeing. I was participating, but I'm the minor character in this play. What you were doing was of paramount importance in organizing this. And by being civil and respectful to the people, they relaxed and were confident that we would be respectful of their stories. And we need to take responsibility for these lost children, these lost adults, and treat them with respect and dignity as we should with everyone.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think it's Mom Stop the Harm that has that saying, somebody's someone, and everybody is an equal. Everybody is at equal risk or vulnerability, and that no one's immune. It's like it can happen to anybody. And a lot of the reason people do end up in these places are because of past trauma. So I bet that's something that you're very familiar with, having your practice and all the insider knowledge that you do from all your work over the years. Karen, what do you see as being part of the reason that we ended up in the current situation that we did today?
Well, I think it has a long history. For years, people were virtually imprisoned, like Riverview in BC was essentially a prison, and women could be put in there against their will, and their husbands would sign them in from menopause, and the types of treatments that were offered were simply appalling. And my mother was one of the patients, and she never recovered.
Oh, wow.
They gave her shock treatment that would be considered virtually lethal now, and destroyed her mind. She had been a public health nurse, and at the end of the treatment, I hate the term, but it's the vegetable, and that's what she was.
Oh, that's so sad.
And the treatments were just kind of diabolical. Anyway, so there was, in the 60s to 70, there were legal cases against the hospitalization and imprisonment of people simply because they had depression or various things like that.
Hysteria?
Or hysteria. Yes, hysteria. But the tragedy was there are a number of people who are schizophrenic, and there's different levels of schizophrenia. There's a paranoid schizophrenia, and there's it's different stages of ability to function or not function. And I'm not dwelling on that, but there's all kinds of things that happen to people. And they were sent to Hastings Street, basically given a bus fare and let loose in Hastings Street. And many of them died within the first year.
That's so awful.
Yes. And so that kind of tradition is carried on today. And if you look at the people down in Railtown, you will see many people who have mental health issues. It is not their fault. They are not under treatment. They cannot manage themselves. And then there are many people there that are just somebody's child. The parents could have a doctor, a lawyer, a secretary, any number of different jobs within the family, and a child that cannot function. It cannot function within the school system, cannot function. And there aren't jobs for people.
No, and how do you expect people to work when people are not well? Like, it's kind of like the housing first model, where you can't be expected to, put on a proper suit and go to work and maintain a job when there's nowhere for you to live or to shower or sleep without being, the fear of your belongings being stolen.
Absolutely.
And a lot of self-medicating is what I saw in Victoria.
Yes.
People that are using substances as a coping mechanism for underlying mental health and health issues.
Absolutely. And the anxiety would be profound.
Oh, yeah.
And based on reality. It's not some kind of fiction. They're terribly distressed.
Totally. So what I'm hearing from you is it's about this systemic injustice that has continued to operate.
Yes.
And people kind of othering people and ignoring them in society is not being our problem or important to us. So why should we address it? It's not our home. It's not our street until people start sleeping on your street, right?
Absolutely. And then, of course, they get upset and they want the city to remove them. Why don't they live farther out of town?
Yeah.
To do what? To do what? They're here because at least food is accessible. There are some things. But, there isn't adequate provision. There wasn't fresh water, toilets, showering, food. People, the temperatures here were up close to 40. I noticed that down in the rail trail area, that the ambulance was there just about daily, removing people.
Oh, completely.
So at what point do we step up? We care for dogs better than we do for our children.
Yeah, wow. When you think of it like that, what a profound statement.
Yeah.
It's like, either when does the call to action, when is enough? When's enough where things are actually done about it?
Yes.
Do you think that the city of Kelowna did a good job at putting I think they have porta potties down there and they have hand washing stations. Do you think that was implemented well here?
I think that's just a start.
Yeah.
There isn't enough shelter to get out of the heat. I think that they need to address it more thoroughly and guaranteed that people can have the basic things in life.
Yeah.
Foods, shelter, warmth, medication, and access to whatever drugs it is that they need that are clean.
Safe supply.
Safe supply.
Yeah, that's one of the episodes or one of the focuses of the episodes that we're going to touch on, the importance of that. And about having worked in an opioid substitution clinic, it's about not just having the medication, it's the right dose and the right drug for each individual, not this kind of one for all care system. That we need to have different options for people because we're all very unique.
Absolutely. And looking backward, when people were hospitalized, they were put on drugs that surpass the drugs that these people are taking in terms of being lethal and addictive. So, there's a hypocrisy there. It's okay for the psychiatrist to prescribe addictive, heavy-duty drugs, but these young people Oh, it's terrible that they're self-medicating. What are they supposed to do when they're suffering?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You raise so many valid points, and it's interesting. Your views as coming from someone with a mental health background, that this is, what your expertise is. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective with us.
Well, thank you.
What would you see as being some first steps? So we talked about the first step Kelowna did, but what would you see as being some first steps from here, second steps, third steps, in order to improve the situation for those experiencing homelessness and substance dependency issues?
I think we need to have higher levels of care, more people on the ground, nurses, doctors, providing basic housing where people are not committed. They can come and go as they choose. It's respectful, but primarily that the drugs that they're taking need to be clean drugs. They're at risk all the time of dying, and no one wants, I think, to die. Of course, I could be wrong. There's a point where people do want to die.
It speaks to the level of helplessness that people can reach after experiencing so much, endured trauma. And I think it's amazing when you look at the resiliency of some of these people and their ability to just continue.
Yes.
Just even go on each day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Karen, you spoke earlier about the photos that you took down at Railtown when we went down there together. What did you capture in those pictures?
I think what I captured was their honesty. They, of course, were hesitant in the beginning. And I think the fact that you are a very seasoned social worker working in that community, that you truly put people at ease.
Oh, thank you.
And you did that very well. I observed that. And I was more in the background, observing, but I'm also very comfortable with people. Mm-hmm. And I can relax into situations and make myself smaller. I'm not being big and important. I am just simply there. And I think that allows people to become relaxed and be themselves. And you could see as we spent the time there that they were very engaged with you.
And you as well.
Well, yes, but I mean, you are very masterful. Oh. You're very masterful. I don't throw out compliments, but I was very impressed with your ability to talk to people in the most respectful, kind way, and but in a professional way. It wasn't mushy. It was clear, and you explained everything so clearly and how the images would be used. And so I was able just to relax in the background and be the blind lady has eyes. I could be the observer. And so I was watching people relax and be who they are. And that's when I was able to take candid photographs, people smiling in the conditions and having some laughter and having some serious communications with each other. And but it was what you did that allowed it to happen. And but that allowed me to document it visually.
Well, thank you, Karen. That's a huge compliment. For me, it was you. It was your ability to capture these raw, intimate moments of people
Yes.
because they trusted you to take them well. And I had to catch up to you at one point because you were going for a walk ahead of me with a fellow down there who
Yes.
fixes bikes, and he just was telling you his whole life story. It was just the
Yeah.
sweetest thing to see in a place where most people wouldn't be comfortable to even go down. And as you said earlier, that
Yes.
you've witnessed people that drive by for spectacle, and you just dived right into that and embed yourself in this area that we were,
Yeah.
and that's something that not a lot of people are comfortable doing, and that a lot of people do. So
Yes.
you're just amazing.
Well, thank you. I think that I grew up in Surrey as a young child, and my first home was a chicken house.
Oh,
Oh, yes. Yeah, a chicken coop. And we lived a very rough life. We didn't have indoor toilets until I was 7 years old. And we advanced from the chicken house into a concrete basement that took 10 years for the house to be built, I think. And we lived like the Wild Bunch. 5 children, wild as could be. No one ever supervised us. and so in a sense, that kind of life was my childhood.
wow.
And, life was a bit more raw and on the edge in that community.
That? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that was kind of the norm. So I think, in a way, that prepared me for all these different situations. It wasn't completely foreign to me.
It made you dynamic in your ability to respond to things in life. I can imagine. And when
Yes.
you speak about, about coming in, making yourself smaller, it's so much about your ability to change the power dynamics within a situation.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's what is one of the underlying incredible skills that you have, is just this ability to just level the playing field with people. And it's really fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a psychotherapist, I am a good listener, but I don't waste a lot of time either, hearing the same story over and over and over again. We come up with an action plan, and but that's with situations where we're talking to high functioning adults. When you're talking to people on the rail trail, they are terribly damaged. Life has been very hard on them. And that doesn't mean they haven't come from lovely families. They can. But there are people who are not equipped to deal with all the situations in life. It's very difficult for them.
Yeah.
And they need compassion, not judgment.
Yeah, stigma and shame is part of the reason that we ended up in this situation. So, yeah, you raised so many valid points. What's supportive for you? I know is Harry a good support for you? Your
Oh,
husband?
he is. He is a great partner. I am very fortunate. And he is an artist. And so when I'm working on something, he supports me. He'll back me up, work on the computer, make suggestions. He tends to do landscape. I'm very much about people.
Okay.
Yeah, my thing is still, I've never changed.
I doubt that, but maybe just your paintings.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I think it's so important for people to have supports, no matter who you are, and especially when you've done some of the incredible work that you have. But it's just, how do you expect anybody to face these challenges that they are down there alone if they don't have people backing them, like the sense of community and connection?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, how many deaths does it take before? And the tragedy is, it isn't publicized how many deaths. Not really. When I worked in the school district, I was very concerned about the suicides.
Okay.
How many suicides there are in this school district. The number of suicides is terribly high. And yet they are never acknowledged. It's this myth that if we don't talk about it, they would think that it might be catching. Well, it's already caught. It's already happening.
Yeah, like a disease or illness that catches on. The more people talk about it, but that's what it takes to change.
And that's what it takes to change. And I felt that way with the school district over the children and the suicides, and I feel the same way about the people that are struggling to live, barely able to live, and we owe them. We do. If we are considered civilized, we should, which I wonder at times,
Yeah, you're not alone in that thought.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like even the UN says that the housing is a human right. Yet do people have houses? No. It's hard to believe sometimes that we're living in a civil society that cares about other people, right?
Yes, yeah.
But what gives you hope, Karen, to keep on being this incredible, positive person?
I think meeting people like you.
Oh,
Absolutely. I just so want to support what you're doing. I mean, I'm 78, so I can make some difference, but you will make a lot of difference.
oh, gonna make me tear up.
No, you
Very
will.
sweet.
No, you will. And the community that you know and work with, you'll have a huge influence on making change. And it's a slow process, but someone has to take it on, and it takes courage.
Oh, thank you, Karen. That means a lot. And it's all about connection and support and knowing people, right? You can't do it alone. So, and it's people like you that put fuel in my fire, to keep on. And especially having lost my sibling to the overdose crisis in 2018. Well, it's been 8 years. I lose track of time.
Wow.
That gives me a real, if I didn't before have a reason to do what I'm doing and put effort and passion into these things. Like I don't know what more could push you. I guess some people go more, some people go less, and like I went a little extra, I guess.
Well, you
after
did.
That.
No, it's. I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful, and the first 5 years after something like that, it's devastating for a sibling.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it was hard.
Very difficult.
Not a day, goes by that I don't think of her. But it's you can either be really angry about experiencing something like that, or you can do something about your anger. And trust me, I have gone to protests and yelled enough times in my life.
Yes, yeah.
Gets to a point where you need to not just only be making noise. You need to also be putting some suggestions and plans forward that can be implemented, and not just yelling for the sake of yelling.
Yeah, you have to step up.
Put some skin in the game.
No kidding. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, and you will pay at times, and it's not an easy road, but it's worth doing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Agree. So we can provide a list of supports that are available for the Kelowna community at the end of the episode. But I want to know any final thoughts or any words that you'd like to share with people at home. Different ways. Your perspective is so brilliant and insightful. I think that, what would you tell people at home that are wondering what can they do or how do they start?
Well, I think that the people who have experienced the loss of a child, a sibling, need to step up. There's shame involved. Often families have a sense of loss and shamefulness, and it's true that people will shame them. There must have been something wrong in your family. After all, that wouldn't happen in my family. That's the attitude. No, it happens in wonderful families. And I think that there needs to be more organization and with the families who have lost children to addiction. and and are living this type of life, and they need to step up and continue to support their children, their rights after they've, it is after their death, but I mean, at least it'll have an impact on the next generation.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that lots of people are doing things, but it's not in the public eye.
Yeah, it's very true. I think Mom Stop the Harm is, it was incredible that group started.
Yes.
And filled such a void for supporting families. And I think they have Holding Hope as well, which is Holding Hope for siblings? And just, it's so necessary for people to just frame this in a different way and to be gentle and tender with themselves and with their loved ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are supporting each other in their loss, but I think they need to go down to the rail to trail and support
the living.
The living. Yes, we mourn the dead, but let's support these living children, adult children who are suffering and they are dying.
Yeah. Wow, Karen, I'm so thankful that I've had the privilege of even knowing you, and so grateful that you were willing to come on the talk show today.
Well, I
video
thank
podcast,
you.
So I could pick your brain.
Well, you do wonderful work, and I look.
Ditto, sister.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you.